My beloved child, don't leave. Not yet. Before you make the decision to keep scrolling, before you convince yourself this is just another message, I need you to hear something that may explain the battle you've been fighting for far longer than anyone realizes. Because what you're calling delay, heaven has been calling preparation. And before this message is over, I will reveal why the season that almost broke you may actually be the greatest evidence that I have never stopped working in your life. Stay with me. The enemy hoped you would give up before you heard this. I won't let that happen. I know what your nights have looked like. I have watched you stare into the darkness after everyone else had fallen asleep. I heard the prayers you whispered so quietly that even you wondered if anyone could hear them. I counted every tear you quickly wiped away before another person walked into the room. You have become very good at pretending you're okay. You smile. You work. You answer people's questions. You carry responsibilities. But underneath it all, there is a tired heart asking one question over and over again. Jesus, how much longer? You have asked it more times than you admit. Not because your faith disappeared, but because your strength feels stretched so thin. Listen carefully. Questions do not frighten me. Honest hearts never push me away. I would rather hear your exhausted whisper than a perfect prayer spoken without sincerity. So come closer. Lay down the weight you've been carrying. For just these next few moments, let me carry you. If you truly believe this message found you for a reason, type Amen in the comments. Not because I need proof of your faith, but because sometimes your own heart needs to declare what your fear keeps trying to deny. Now let me tell you something very few people understand. Waiting is one of the places where I do my deepest work. Most people assume miracles only happen when doors suddenly open. They celebrate answered prayers. They rejoice over breakthroughs. They notice promotions, healings, restorations. But almost nobody celebrates the silent season before the miracle. Yet heaven never wastes silence. The greatest transformations usually begin where human eyes see absolutely nothing. Think about the seed buried beneath the ground. If someone judged its future by what they could see today, they would call it dead, forgotten, lost. But beneath the surface, life is already unfolding. Roots are stretching. Strength is forming. Everything necessary for future growth is happening where nobody can applaud it. My child, that is exactly where you are. You keep looking at the surface. I keep looking at your foundation. You are worried because nothing appears to be changing. I am smiling because everything is changing exactly where it matters most. There are parts of your character that could never be developed during comfortable seasons. Trust, patience, wisdom, discernment. These are treasures that grow quietly, not loudly. You asked me to prepare you for what you've been praying for. I heard that prayer. But preparation often feels very different than people expect. You wanted open doors. I started building stronger shoulders. You prayed for influence. I began healing hidden wounds. You asked for blessing. I first taught you how to remain faithful when nobody noticed you. Because blessing without maturity becomes a burden. Favor without character becomes dangerous. Promotion without preparation crushes people instead of helping them. So when I slowed your journey, it was never because I loved you less. It was because I loved you too much to let you arrive before you were ready. Stay with me. Because what I'm about to reveal may completely change how you see this entire season. There were opportunities you cried over after losing them. You thought they were your future. You begged me to reopen those doors. You wondered why I stayed silent. What you never saw was what stood behind those doors. The disappointment that would have shattered your peace. The relationships that would have pulled you away from my purpose. The compromise you would have been pressured to accept. The heartbreak waiting just beyond what looked like success. You called it rejection. I called it protection. One day, you will thank me for prayers I lovingly refused to answer. I know that's difficult to understand today. But trust me, you cannot always recognize rescue while it is happening. Sometimes my greatest miracles look exactly like closed doors. You compare your journey with people around you. Someone else gets engaged. Someone else buys the house. Someone else receives the opportunity. Someone else announces exciting news. Meanwhile, you wonder if I even remember your name. Oh, my precious child. Do you really think the shepherd forgets one of his sheep? I know every detail about you. I know the dreams you've stopped telling people because you're tired of explaining why they haven't happened yet. I know the promises you've quietly hidden inside your heart. I know the prayers you've prayed so many times that you've almost become afraid to pray them again. I have forgotten none of them. Not one. Every promise I give carries its own appointed time. Not your timeline. Not the world's timeline. Mine. And my timing has never once failed. You see delay. I see destiny unfolding exactly when it should. Here's another truth the enemy desperately wants to hide from you. The longer you've been waiting, the more tempted you've become to believe that your value depends on what hasn't happened yet. You quietly tell yourself, when this finally changes, then I'll feel enough. When this prayer is answered, then I'll have peace. When this season ends, then I'll finally be happy. But listen carefully. Your worth has never depended on your waiting ending. You were valuable before the breakthrough. You are valuable during the waiting. You'll still be valuable afterward. Nothing you accomplish could make me love you more. Nothing you fail to accomplish could make me love you less. That has always been true. And it always will be. Can I ask you something? Are you still listening? Because what comes next is the part the enemy hoped you would never hear. If my words are speaking directly into your heart, type Jesus is with me below. Not for me. For the person reading beside you who desperately needs courage to keep waiting one more day. You have been stronger than you realize. Think back. How many moments did you believe you couldn't survive? Yet here you are. How many mornings did you wake up convinced your heart couldn't carry another burden? Yet somehow, you kept walking. Do you know why? Because every time you thought you were carrying yourself, I was carrying you. You only saw your footsteps, but I felt the weight. When your prayers became tears, I understood them perfectly. When words failed, love continued speaking. When you couldn't sense my presence, my hand never left your life. Never mistake my silence for my absence. Those are not the same thing. Sometimes I grow quiet, not because I have stepped away, but because I am doing something so deep inside you that words would only distract from the work. The greatest builder spend more time strengthening foundations than decorating rooftops. That's what I'm doing with you. I'm building something that storms cannot destroy. And when the answers finally arrive, you will discover they weren't late. They arrived exactly when your heart had become strong enough to receive them without losing me in the process. So don't rush ahead. Don't abandon hope. Don't let disappointment become your permanent identity. This chapter is not your conclusion. It is your preparation. And my child, the story is only beginning. My beloved child, do not lose heart now. What I am about to reveal is something many people never understand until years after their waiting season has ended. But I want you to understand it while you are still walking through it. Because once you do, you will stop seeing yourself as someone who has been forgotten, and you will begin seeing yourself as someone who has been carefully prepared. Listen closely. Not every battle in your life is visible. Some of the greatest battles happen inside your heart, long before circumstances change. The enemy tries to change what you believe about me. He knows something. If he cannot steal your salvation, he will try to steal your confidence. If he cannot separate you from my love, he will try to convince you that I have separated myself from you. That is why the whispers became louder during the waiting. What if nothing ever changes? What if God has moved on? What if I misunderstood his promises? What if everyone else was chosen except me? Those thoughts did not come from my heart. I have never spoken fear over your life. I have never whispered hopelessness into your soul. Those voices were designed to make you quit just before the breakthrough I have been preparing. That is why this season has felt unusually heavy. You thought you were only waiting, but you were also fighting. Fighting discouragement. Fighting disappointment. Fighting exhaustion. Fighting the temptation to settle for less than what I promised. And my child, you have fought far better than you realize. Every morning you chose to keep believing, even with trembling hands. Heaven noticed. Every time you prayed while wondering if anyone was listening, heaven listened. Every time you resisted becoming bitter, the kingdom of darkness lost ground. Never underestimate quiet obedience. It shakes the unseen world more than loud performance. As ever will. Stay with me, because what I reveal next may explain why this season has lasted longer than you expected. You have been asking me to change your circumstances, while I have been transforming your identity. There is a difference. Circumstances come and go. Identity remains. If I only changed your surroundings, but never healed the places inside you that still doubted your worth, the next storm would bring you back to the same fear. So I began healing something deeper. The version of you that believed success determined your value. The version of you that depended on other people's approval. The version of you that secretly feared being abandoned. I saw wounds that nobody else could see. Wounds hidden beneath your smile. Hidden beneath your responsibilities. Hidden beneath your faith. And because I love you, I refuse to leave those wounds untouched. Healing often begins where comfort ends. That is why this process has felt uncomfortable. Not because I was hurting you, but because I was removing what had been hurting you for years. Have you noticed something? The things that once completely shattered you no longer have the same power. You still feel pain, but you recover faster. You still experience disappointment, but despair no longer owns you. You still cry, but now your tears eventually become prayers instead of surrender. That is growth. You may not celebrate it, but I do. Because every quiet victory inside your heart is preparing you for victories that others will one day see. My child, I need you to stop measuring progress only by visible results. Some of my greatest miracles happen long before circumstances ever change. The miracle begins when fear loses its grip, when peace replaces panic, when trust becomes stronger than uncertainty. Those miracles are already happening inside you. Can I tell you something that may surprise you? The blessing you keep asking for is also being prepared for you. Just as I have been preparing your heart, I have also been preparing what is coming next. There are conversations taking place that you know nothing about. Doors moving quietly on unseen hinges. People being positioned. Timing aligning. Pieces fitting together with perfect precision. You only see today's silence. I see tomorrow's testimony. Nothing in my kingdom happens by accident. Every detail matters. Every delay has purpose. Every unanswered prayer carries wisdom. One day you will look back and realize that what felt random was actually remarkably precise. If these words are strengthening your heart, subscribe and continue walking with this family of faith. Not because I need another follower on a channel, but because your soul needs constant reminders of truth in a world filled with fear. And there are others waiting for encouragement just like you once were. Now, let me speak directly to the part of your heart that has become tired. I know you're exhausted. Not physically alone. Spiritually. Emotionally. You have carried burdens you never talked about. You kept encouraging everyone else while quietly wondering who would encourage you. You became the strong one. The dependable one. The one everyone leaned on. But who carried you? I did. Even when you couldn't feel me. Especially then. There were nights when you almost gave up praying. You repeated the same request so many times that you wondered if I had grown tired of hearing it. Oh, my precious child. I never grow weary of listening to my children. Not once. Every prayer you have prayed still matters. Not because of perfect words, but because they came from an honest heart. Even your silence has spoken to me. Even your tears have become prayers in heaven. You have never needed impressive language for me to understand you. I know your heart before words ever leave your lips. Here is another truth. Do not mistake weariness for weakness. The strongest soldiers become tired. The most faithful servants sometimes feel empty. Even those who deeply love me experience seasons where they simply need rest. Rest is not failure. Rest is trust. Rest is admitting you were never meant to carry tomorrow before it arrives. You keep trying to solve your entire future tonight. You cannot. And I never asked you to. I only asked for today's trust. Today's obedience. Today's next step. Tomorrow belongs to me. So stop carrying responsibilities I have not given you. Lay them down. You are worrying about doors you cannot open. I hold every key. You are anxious over people you cannot change. I know every heart. You are fearful about circumstances beyond your control. Nothing is beyond mine. So breathe. Not because life has become easy, but because I remain faithful. Always. Before this part ends, I want to leave you with one promise. There is coming a morning when you will realize that I never abandoned you for a single second. You will see connections you cannot see today. You will understand delays that currently confuse you. You will recognize protection where you once saw rejection. And when that day comes, you will not only thank me for what I gave you, you will thank me for what I lovingly kept from you. Because I was never withholding goodness. I was preserving it until the appointed time. So keep walking. Keep trusting. Keep lifting your eyes toward me. The breakthrough is closer than your fear wants you to believe. And in the final part, I will reveal what happens when heaven's timing finally meets your season of waiting and why your greatest testimony may be about to begin. My beloved child, you have stayed with me this far. That tells me something. Deep inside your heart, there is still hope. Perhaps it is smaller than it used to be. Perhaps life has bruised it. Perhaps disappointment has covered it with layers of fear. But it is still there. And because it is still there, I can breathe fresh life into it. Now listen carefully. What I am about to tell you is the truth your soul has been longing to hear. Your waiting has never been the end of your story. It has always been the middle. The chapter that feels the longest. The chapter that makes the least sense. The chapter where almost every believer wonders if the author has stopped writing. But I have never stopped. Not for one moment. Even while you questioned me, I was writing. Even while you cried, I was writing. Even while you sat in silence wondering whether heaven remembered your name, I was writing. I never left my place beside you. There were days when you believed nothing had changed. Yet every prayer was shaping your future. Every act of obedience was strengthening your foundation. Every disappointment was teaching your heart to recognize my voice above every other voice. Nothing has been wasted. Not one lonely night. Not one unanswered question. Not one painful tear. I have gathered every one of them. I have seen every hidden sacrifice. And I promise you this. What you surrendered to me has never disappeared. It has been placed safely in my hands. Now let me reveal something that fear has tried to hide from you. You keep believing your greatest miracle is the thing you've been praying for. But your greatest miracle is who you are becoming. Years ago, certain disappointments would have completely destroyed your peak. Today, they still hurt, but they no longer define you. Years ago, you depended upon circumstances to tell you whether life was good. Now, even in uncertainty, you still search for my presence. That is transformation. That is the work of my Spirit. That is evidence that I have been closer than you realized. My child, heaven measures success differently than the world does. The world celebrates achievement. I celebrate faithfulness. The world applauds popularity. I delight in humility. The world chases speed. I build endurance. The world says, get there first. I say, walk with me. Because arriving without me is not victory. Walking with me, even through valleys, always is. There is something beautiful waiting on the other side of this season. Not because life will suddenly become perfect, but because you will recognize my fingerprints on moments you once misunderstood. You will remember the doors that stayed closed, and instead of grieving them, you will thank me. You will remember relationships that ended, and instead of asking, why, you will quietly whisper, now I understand. You will remember delays that once felt unbearable, and you will realize they protected blessings that would have been damaged if they had arrived too soon. That day is coming. Do not measure my faithfulness by today's emotions. Measure it by my unchanging character. Have I ever stopped loving you? No. Have I ever abandoned one of my children? Never. Have I ever forgotten a promise that came from my heart? Not once. Then why would I begin with you? I won't. I never will. The enemy has spent this entire season trying to convince you that your future is smaller than your past. But hear me clearly. Your best days are not behind you. They are being prepared. Not because life will suddenly become easy, but because you will walk into them with a heart that has learned to trust me more deeply than ever before. And trust will carry you farther than talent ever could. Before we pray together, I want to ask you something. Has my voice found you today? Has hope begun to rise again inside your heart? If so, before you leave this message, write these words in the comments. Jesus, I trust your timing. Not because those words have magical power, but because declaring truth weakens fear. Your testimony may become the encouragement another weary soul desperately needs tonight. And if the C messages continue helping you draw closer to me, stay connected. There are many more hearts waiting to discover that they are not alone. Share this message with someone who has almost given up. You may never know how one simple act of kindness changes another person's eternity. Now, pray with me. Father, I lift before you every person listening whose heart has grown weary from waiting. You know every unanswered prayer, every hidden tear, every sleepless night, every silent battle. Wrap them now in the peace that only you can give. When fear whispers that nothing is changing, remind them that you are always working beyond what human eyes can see. When discouragement tells them to quit, strengthen them with fresh courage. When loneliness becomes overwhelming, surround them with the assurance of your presence. Heal the wounds that disappointment has left behind. Restore hope where hope has grown weak. Replace anxiety with peace. Replace confusion with trust. Replace striving with surrender. Teach them to rest in your perfect love. Open every door that belongs in their future. Close every door that would lead them away from your purpose. Give them wisdom to recognize your voice above every distraction. Protect them from believing lies about their identity. Remind them daily that they are chosen, loved, forgiven, and never forgotten. May every delay become a testimony. May every trial become a source of compassion for others. May every tear become the seed of future joy. And when the day finally comes that they see the answer you have been preparing, let them remember that it was your faithful hand carrying them all along. In my holy name, Amen. Now receive these final words from my heart. My beloved child, you are not behind. You are not overlooked. You are not abandoned. You are not fighting alone. I have walked beside you through every valley. I have held you together when you believed you were falling apart. I have protected you from dangers you never saw. I have heard every prayer you thought disappeared into silence. And I am still working. Even now. Especially now. The chapter you are living today is not the final chapter. The waiting has shaped you. The tears have strengthened you. The silence has deepened your faith. Soon, you will look back and understand why I asked you to trust me one more day. Until then, keep your eyes on me. Keep your heart open. Keep taking the next faithful step. I have gone before you. I am walking beside you. and I will remain behind you, covering every place where fear tries to follow. I have not forgotten you. I never will. I am still writing your story. The waiting is almost over. The breakthrough is closer than you think. Walk forward in peace. Walk forward in courage. Walk forward knowing this unchanging truth. I am with you. I always have been. I always will be.